And then when you combine both hands together, you'll have the feeling that this trill plays itself, so to speak. In order to create this light and sparkling effect in the right hand, a perfect legato is not the way to go. And if you're using the right expressive techniques, it will sound very well too and not be very difficult. Hey everyone, this is Ilinka Vartik, and today I'm sharing with you a video tutorial dedicated to Chopin's sparkling Impromptu No. 1 in A-flat major, opus 29. We will identify the main expressive tasks, we will analyze the different types of legato that we have in this piece, and I will show you how to practice the most challenging fragments so that you can play them in the final tempo with ease and technical freedom, with good coordination, and also with the needed sound balance, voicing, and phrasing. This video was inspired from the following question asked by one of our members as part of the August 2018 edition of our Q&A project at pianocareeracademy.com. I need advice in learning Chopin's Impromptu No. 1. I have troubles with legato playing, and many times I can hear my fingers playing notes separately instead of playing perfect legato in the right hand. I also have problems coordinating hands together, emphasizing long notes which technically constitute the melody, etc. The fact that you're trying to play with a perfect legato in the right hand tells me that you don't have very clear expressive goals yet. As I usually mention in my tutorials, if we know what we wish to express and why do we need to express it, it will be much easier to find the technical means or how we will express it. So what is the artistic concept behind this impromptu? What are the main characters that we have here? As you probably know, the word impromptu literally means unexpected, unprepared, improvised, spontaneous. And the outer sections of this piece, which is written in ternary form, have a light and impetuous character, like a clear mountain stream sparkling in the sunlight. In order to create this light and sparkling effect in the right hand, a perfect legato is not the way to go. Yes, we will need to create a very good legato in the middle section, but we will talk about that in a moment. In the outer sections, we have to aim for that light and detached legato, which with the help of the sustain pedal will result in that jeu perlé light, sparkling effect that is so appropriate for many of Chopin's pieces. Without pedal, this effect sounds approximately like this. So you see, I'm not playing with a perfect legato, but with that effect that I call a detached legato. There is connection between notes, so I'm not playing staccato or non-legato, but you see, this connection is minimal and there is no element of overlapping, which is mandatory for a more well-connected singing legato. So how do we create this sparkling and effortless effect? There are obviously practice stages that will help us to get there, and now that we know what we need to express and why this is necessary, which results from understanding the concept of the piece, we can build the technical foundation as well, one step at a time. And the first thing you have to do is practice the left hand. The left hand is the weak link in this piece. Because of the many jumps and hand position changes that we have here, the left hand has to be polished to perfection. Otherwise, it will always be in the way, so to speak. You will think that the problem is in the right hand, but in fact you'll always feel uncomfortable, you will always feel clumsy and as if you're trying to walk on ice because of the left hand. And now the right hand. Again, it's very important to practice it separately. This is the only way to create quality. You can start with non-legato, and even though here we don't have as many hand position changes as we have in the left hand, still we have a few, for example, here and here. And again, it's important to not play everything in one stiff, rigid position, only from your fingers. You mentioned that you feel your fingers playing these notes separately, and this tells me that you're simply not using the power and leverage of your arms and wrists correctly, and your poor fingers have to do most of their work, which is unfair, I would say, because they can only do so much. So even during non-legato practice, make sure you understand the layout, the way it is built, and you're always one step ahead with your arm on the wrist, so to the right, you see. But don't be afraid of a little bit of deep practice here as well, to eliminate any of that shallow playing, holding back. So allow yourself to play to the bottom of the keys, and here as well. The most uncomfortable spot in this descending passage is this spot here, so you can use the magnifying glass to polish it very well until it's comfortable, until here, and then do the same. Here we have less jumps, but still it's important to use the right movements to navigate this with this. So first we go to the right and then left, a little bit right, you see. And suddenly it's not just our fingers playing this. We play everything with these big crane movements, I would call them, with the arms, and the fingers are much happier because they only do like 25% of the work, not all of it. The next practice step, similarly to the left hand, will be to play legato. At this point, my legato is not super detached because I'm still worrying about this technical stability, about playing all the notes very evenly. And remember, evenness doesn't come just from your fingers, it comes from channeling the same amount of weight into each note. So at this point, I'm playing with articulation that is somewhere between that final detached legato and the perfect legato that you mentioned in your question, which is simply not necessary. Again, too much unnecessary effort. And then we gradually reduce the connection, reduce the heaviness of our key attack, acquire more lightness. And as we increase the tempo, a little technical secret here, we use this motion that I would call throw and gather. So it's like you're effortlessly throwing your arm into the keys, and as you do so, as you play every note, it's like you're gathering these notes under your palm. So it's not just the pressing of the key, but the scraping of the key. This movement can be very useful in playing passages by Chopin. And as you notice, the actual legato is quite minimal, but my fingers are not on their own. They're helped by the powerful arm, elbow, and wrist. At this point, you can add the pedal and again enjoy the ease that comes as a result of that. And I forgot to mention when talking about the left hand, really engage your hearing when adding the pedal. We have a lot of chromatic notes here, and our pedaling can be very dirty if we don't use a very strict control of our ear. You can use partial pedaling if you want, an approximate half pedal in the outer sections. This would be a very good way of ensuring connection without clutter. Another important thing is very good sound balance. As I mentioned in many other tutorials, the better your voicing and sound balance, the less cluttered your pedaling will sound. So, the same exact pedaling can sound very clear and appropriate if you have good sound balance, and very cluttered and very dirty if you play like this on the left hand overpowers the right. So pedaling, press the pedal, and here, as you play the second triplet, release it a little bit. So it will be a gradual release during the second triplet. Press, release, press. And here you have to listen to your sensations. You could release the pedal as you play this, or you could change the pedal, or you can perform a slight partial change. So this depends on your individual sensations, also a little bit on the mechanics of the piano, and the most important thing, it depends on the commands of your hearing. This piece requires quite an advanced pedaling that is very nuanced. So when you practice in a very slow tempo, engage your hearing and make sure that everything sounds connected yet not cluttered. But this is the general principle. And now we reach the second main point from your question, which is coordination. Indeed, the fact that we have these 8-note triplets in both hands can result in some coordination challenges. So start practicing both hands together only when each hand feels very comfortable for each little motive or phrase. Otherwise, how can you do something more complicated if the elements are not mastered first? So I find that usually students who struggle with coordination didn't spend enough time polishing the separate elements that will have to be coordinated later on. And then in a slow tempo, by keeping these most efficient movements, you start combining both hands together. You can do it without pedal first, so you don't coordinate 3 different things, but only 2. And straight away, when you start combining both hands together, sound balance is crucial here. Really make sure that the right hand shines above the left. Otherwise, these chromatic notes that we have here, and we have plenty of them, will overpower this beautiful melody from the right hand that really has to shine. So 2 to 3 dynamic intensities louder than the left hand. Really try to find the ease and the freedom, which is, in my opinion, one of the most difficult things here. Usually we try so much to play everything correctly that we tense up, we hold back, and this ends up hindering us in the long run. So find the freedom. This effortless way of playing should be your priority. And if you cannot do it in a faster tempo, build it one step at a time, very slowly first. As you can see, all my movements are comfortable, relaxed, everything feels good. Practice until there is no clumsiness, no hesitation. And because we have the same rhythm in both hands, there is no rhythmical challenges, so we just play everything together. It's not like we have polyrhythms here. Now, this type of detached legato can be applied to most of the outer sections from this impromptu, but there are some exceptions. For example, when you start this theme here, you can deepen your legato a little bit, make it a bit more connected. Why? With the purpose of creating this lyrical character. So here the character was light and sparkling. Here, just a bit of a lyrical element appears. And as always, it's the character that dictates the technical execution. So we can play, you see, with a more connected legato, but if we use the right navigation, this will feel very comfortable. Actually, this fragment for the right hand is quite easy from a technical point of view. The challenge here is in the left hand and also in combining both hands together. Why? Because in the left hand we have this hidden melody here, formed by the long notes, here by the quarter notes that have to be held down. And now we reach the third main point from your question, which is emphasizing those notes that form the melody. And this is a first example of voicing in the same hand A second example will be on the second page and we'll reach it in a moment. Obviously, you have to practice the left hand first, and I recommend this approach. You see, you will play the long note and hold it down and play these other two notes with a light, detached, non-legato. Also make sure you learn the fingering that feels best for you. For example, here, 4 would be better. Remember that a perfect legato is not mandatory. What will be important is that legato that you will create with the use of the pedal later on, and your hearing is the defining element here. So again, you'll have to aim for comfort here and channel more weight into the fingers playing this melody. And the most important thing, track with your hearing the continuity of the melodic line formed as a result. Again, there are practice steps here which we won't have time to analyze in a step-by-step manner like we did in the beginning. But shortly the next step will be legato playing, but without losing this deeper key attack for the bass notes. Then you can add the pedal, and as you play with pedal, really track this melody with your hearing. And at this point, it's also very important to think about phrasing. So you see, follow those microdynamic indications placed by Chopin in the score. So a little crescendo, the melody goes on, we're rising until here, and a little diminuendo. So if the phrase is well shaped, your melody will sound more continuous, more horizontal and meaningful. On the other hand, if you just play everything with the same sound intensity, it will sound static and mechanical. So understanding things in perspective, thinking horizontally is crucial here, not just for this little fragment, but for the entire piece. Then when you will combine both hands together here, you will have 3 different layers of sound intensity. I recommend that the right hand is the brightest layer, even though in some spots, let's say in the reprise, in the third part of the piece, you can make an exception and show the melody of the right hand in the foreground. But for starters, you can emphasize the right hand, so this is your main layer. The second layer will be formed by this melody of the quarter notes in the left hand, and the third layer, the accompaniment notes in the left hand, which have to sound really softly. Now with pedal in a slow tempo, the right hand leads, but I'm also listening to the left hand melody. And phrasing is very important here. You'll have to spend some time on this fragment, which is more challenging than the first phrase, for example. But once you practice this enough, this ease will inevitably come. And the more comfortable you feel, the easier it will be to focus not just on the technical execution, but on those expressive tasks, on those beautiful expressive tasks that we have here. Another little tip that is not directly connected to your question, but it is very important. Intonation is crucial in playing Chopin. And when we talk about intonation, we have to pay special attention to any wide intervals that we have. For example, here we have a chromatic scale, and it will be intoned in a different manner than a wider interval. So when you have this wider interval, really listen to it, navigate it with your wrist, make sure it sounds expressive. You can always imagine that whenever you have a more singing legato quality, that this melody is sung by the human voice. And this will help you to find that intoning key that works best in this situation. And now I'll move on to the next tip, which is pulsation. Very often students find it difficult to increase the tempo in this piece because they're imagining the pulsation incorrectly. If you imagine one pulsation for each quarter note, chances are that you will always this moderate clumsy tempo. In this piece, it's very important to play with a pulsation per half bar. So you have 1, 2, 1, 2, and always this feeling of forward movement. This mental image, the way you hear this music, is what will pull you forward when increasing the tempo, not your fingers. The fingers will follow. If you don't have this idea in your mind though, it will take a long time to reach this tempo by technical means alone. So don't forget about pulsation, especially as you increase the tempo. And now I'll share a few more tips for a couple of other fragments from this piece where the tasks are slightly different. The continuation of this tutorial, where I show you how to conquer the double voicing challenge from this descending sequence, how to create a rich and singing legato in the middle section, how to practice the ornamental passages and the trills, can be found on pianocareeracademy.com, along with the video replies from all the past editions of our Q&A project, which was launched in January 2015. By the way, the Q&A videos are only a small feature of our program. In the members area, you will also get instant access to many hundreds of detailed piano playing tutorials, including progressive courses that reveal the professional secrets of the Russian piano school through my holistic approach to piano playing and lifestyle. To join our program, simply click on the link in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who can benefit from it as well, and don't forget to subscribe. Have an inspired practice, and I'll talk to you soon.